Dr. Stephen Dayan. I am a researcher, professor, and physician who has studied the science of attraction for the last 20 years. I've made it probably the biggest area of my research over the last 20 years. I've published over 200 articles, many on the science of attraction. I've written a New York Times bestseller on the science of attraction. And as a plastic surgeon, every single day I deal with the clinical aspects in the science of attraction. And what you think is attractive may surprise you. This is a great question. Is the skin actually an emotional organ? And the answer to that question is yes, because the skin and the brain are developed from the same embryological layer, the ectoderm. So when your brain is developing, so is your skin at the same time. There are nerve and sensory cells within your skin, and you have constant feedback between your skin and your brain. It's called the psychosocial dermal axis. It's not well understood by many, but it's critically important. 25% of patients who have skin disorders or who enter into a dermatology clinic also have psychological disorders as well. So there's anxiety associated with your skin, and we see this commonly with patients who suffer from acne or rosacea or other skin type of lesions. How about aesthetically? Yes, of course. Patients who have aesthetic concerns with their skin also oftentimes have anxiety associated with this. So if we can treat their skin, if we can make their skin look better, then at the same time we can oftentimes make them feel better about themselves. And what does that mean? Self-esteem goes up. 70% of our self-esteem is wrapped up in our appearance, and if we're happy about our appearance, then our self-esteem tends to go higher. Now, that's not the complete cause of self-esteem. Other factors that influence our self-esteem may be things such as how we feel about our loved ones, how we feel about ourselves athletically, how we feel about ourselves in our jobs, or academically. There's so many things that go into what creates our self-esteem, but no doubt appearance has an influence on that, and skin and the brain are inextricably linked. Great question is, what is beauty and what is attraction? I taught a class at DePaul University on the science of beauty, its impact on culture and business in America. That class syllabus then turned into my best-selling book, Subliminally Exposed. And in that class, the first day of class, I'd walk into the room and I asked the students who were all sitting back in the room, they were all freshmen and sophomores, had a few juniors and seniors, but mostly younger students. And I'd say, how do you define beauty? And I would get the most incredible answers, because it's a difficult question to answer, especially when you're 16, 17, 18 years old. But it's not uncommon for people to be confused or uncertain what is beauty. If I ask any person what is beauty, most people would say, well, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, or beauty's only skin deep. They come back with these cliche answers. But really, what is beauty? Well, if you look at it from a scientific perspective, and this is only a scientific perspective, beauty serves a biological purpose. Beauty says I'm healthy, I am well, and I have good genes. This is preserved evolutionarily. It's been around for over 250,000 years in humans. It's a way for us to share that we are healthy, well, and we have good genes. So we use beauty to find a perfect mate, is to find the ideal mate, to produce offspring that are better than us, so that our genes go on to the next level. From this perspective, beauty is something that's primitively encoded. It sits in with the most archaic part of our brain called the amygdala. That's where we assess beauty. And this is subconscious. You do not think about it. You feel it. Someone walks by you and you feel it. You get a charge. It's something that you don't think about. If I have to ask you to think about it, you don't get the pleasure of beauty. When volunteers were asked to look at paintings and asked if it was beautiful, they registered differently the reward centers in the brain than if they were just asked to look at it and judge the age of the person in the painting. But if we have to ask ourselves, do you think they're beautiful? Then that alters the way we feel about it. We don't want to think about it. We just want to feel it. So beauty is something that's subconscious, something that we feel. Now, this is very different from attraction. It's related, but it's different from attraction. Attraction is 50% of the differences that we have in between ourselves. So 50% of what we find beautiful, we all share. This is across all cultures. So whether I drop you off in Papua New Guinea or Alaska or the deepest corridors of Africa, we all find the same things beautiful. And those things are biologically encoded. And things such as body size ratio, there's certain mathematics to it that we look at a human and we can tell that they're youthful, they have good genes, and we all find that beautiful. But that is not attraction. Attraction is something very different. Attraction varies by culture. It varies by background. It varies by education, by history, by mental status, by emotional status. There's many things that affect attraction. In certain cultures, they may like someone with a 14-centimeter plate within their lip. They think that's beautiful. In America, we'd say that's not very beautiful. But if you put someone with collagen-filled lips into Africa, they might not think that's beautiful. At one time, they were doing head elongations in Borneo or neck extensions in Thailand, tattooing in Papua New Guinea, feet binding in China. Those were things all done to increase attraction and make someone more attractive. But the reality is we don't find that attractive here, but other cultures might find that attractive. What you wear, your perfume, how you stand, your hairstyle, All these things affect attraction and are culturally dependent, and nothing contributes to attraction more than one single factor. The person who walks across the room, the one that you're most attracted to, is the person who has confidence. Nothing is more attractive than confidence. We all want to be with the person who has confidence. That's not narcissism, it's confidence. Quiet confidence is what we're all attracted to. So as a plastic surgeon, yes, I can make someone more beautiful. I can improve the appearance of their face. I can make them have a more perfectly designed nose or jawline or cheeks. But that doesn't make them more beautiful. What makes them more beautiful and ultimately more attractive is confidence. So my goal as an aesthetic physician is to impart confidence to my patients. Every year, the media calls me, Dr. Dayan, what's popular this year in beauty trends? And the reality is, if I really want to answer that question, it's what hasn't changed, not what has changed. Beauty trends have been around for the last 250,000 years, and the amount of change they have is so minor. Ultimately, we want someone who appears youthful and fertile, and that's common throughout all cultures and through all species. That's evolutionary preserved. When someone looks distorted, when their lips are too big, when their chest is too big or their butt's too big, well, that may seem like right now that's culturally preferred in certain cultures. And while there's minor variations in different cultures, ultimately we don't want someone who looks distorted or unnatural because that's not considered attractive. We want someone who looks healthy, and that doesn't look healthy when those features are distorted. So that could be a beauty trend in theory, but it might be a media created trend, or it might be a trend that's within a certain pocket of the society, but it's not really a trend that's long-lasting or sustainable. And so anything that gives someone's confidence is going to make them more attractive. And how I do that, or how we do it, there are multiple ways of doing it. It could be skincare, it could be non-surgical treatments, or it could be surgical treatments. And all of those things have to be designed with one ultimate goal to improve confidence, and whatever's trending this year to impart that confidence onto the person seeking aesthetic treatments, that's what's going to trend. So a really interesting question is, how much does scent influence attractiveness? So there's a concept called pheromones. And if you're not sure what pheromones are chemical messengers that are released from one being to another, usually within the same species. And this is a way to signal reproductive receptivity. So it may be that a female is an estrus, means she's ovulating, and she might signal to a male that she is ready to conceive. So this is common throughout the animal world. Animal species do this all the time. But there's other things that pheromones do also. Mothers and children share pheromones. So a mother blindfolded can smell her own baby, and women who live together may cycle together, and it's thought to be done by these chemical messengers, also called pheromones. So pheromones have many different ways in which they affect us as humans. However, it's felt by many evolutionary biologists that perhaps pheromones are not really important, or they not have much of an effect in humans, but they are very important to primates, to monkeys, and other species that are fairly closely related to us. Are pheromones important? Well, I'm going to argue yes. And I know that might be controversial with some, but I do believe that there's certain smells that humans get off, and pheromones can be odorless or non-odorless. In fact, oftentimes they're non-odorless. They're released from the armpits and the groin area, and they're usually released from sweat glands that are associated with fat that gets released. So sometimes bacteria is in that area, so that's why there might be a pungent odor that is released with the pheromones. We have an organ in the back of our nose, the vomer nasal organ, that picks up these chemical messengers and then sends it to our brain, where we then interpret those messengers. Now, whether or not it's vestigial or no longer used in humans, as I said before, is controversial. I believe that we still communicate with each other by pheromones. I believe there's a scent that goes between people. I believe someone walks by you and you're like, oh my gosh, there's something about that person that really captures me. And it's more than just their smell. And you're not sure what it is. I believe it's a pheromone connection. I believe that you're sending messages to each other. There's some argument that when women flip their hair, one of the things they're doing is they're spreading their pheromones out. And that's been documented in various studies. One of the most common products of pheromones are something called copulins. Copulins are released during times of ovulation. So certain products, such as carob, releases isobutyric acid, which is a fatty acid that comes from a derivative of carob, which can mimic the buttery aromatic smell that's found in copulins that females release when ovulating. So those can be placed under the nose of a male and may increase their testosterone levels. So there's lots of research in this area. It's quite fascinating to me. I think there's some value to it. Can we bottle those pheromones? Now, a lot of companies have tried to do that. There's been many perfume companies that have tried to do that. Have they been successful? I'm not really sure I can say. but I do think there's potential opportunity to take these pheromones, place them into topical products, and use them to help attract the opposite sex. Is beauty in the eye of the beholder? I don't really like that saying, because I think that beauty is something that we all share across all cultures, across all of humanity. I think 50% of what we find beautiful is consistent amongst all humans. 50% of what we find beautiful, or I call attractiveness, is conscious, is thought through. So what you find beautiful and I find beautiful might be two different things. There's a component of it that's similar, but there's also a component that's private that I view that you don't. Now, what makes me find something beautiful different from what you find beautiful? Well, it can be culture. It can be familiar, something I've seen multiple times. The more you see something, the more you become attracted to it. Same person, you see them over and over again, you start to become more attracted to them. It's the reason why you and your friends tend to find some similarities. You and your family tend to have similarities in what you find attractive because you're used to seeing something. So if you grew up in a certain neighborhood, you grew up in a certain culture, you tend to find that attractive. Someone you've met before, you might find them more attractive because you've seen them before. Sometimes we run into someone, we're like, oh, I really like that person, or I really find that person attractive. And what you don't remember is that you passed somewhere you may have passed. Maybe you went to camp together. Maybe you lived in the same neighborhood. Maybe you went on vacation at the same time. Maybe you went to the same school, and that happens all the time. There's a familiarity there. And then there's a component to what you find beautiful that's epigenetic. It's coded within you. You can't help it. Your genes are particularly attracted to a certain genotype, a certain another type of genes. And that, I believe, can happen and be passed on from generations. I truly believe that your great-grandparents can have influence on what you find attractive. They may have been attracted to something. It gets epigenetically encoded into their genes, like it's passed on to you, and you might find someone attractive you don't even realize. Maybe it's your great-grandfather's best friend's great-grandchild. So what you get attracted to has there's many different variations of it. It's somewhat specific to you, but it's also shared across cultures. For those of you who want to learn more about the science of attraction, please follow my blogs and my writings, and I'm happy to provide more information. I'd like to hear your thoughts too. What do you think is beautiful? What do you think is attractive? And do you see a difference?